Are you old enough to remember when something said made in Japan? It meant it was junk. It was bottom of the barrel stuff. This is like back in the 60s and like the early 70s. You saw anything where it said made in Japan on it, throw it away, right? Don't even bother with it. How much that changed from the 70s, the middle 70s onward, right? Now when something's made in Japan, you know it's top of the line world-class quality. Then in the 80s and into the 90s, it was Hencho in Mexico. As soon as you saw something was Hencho in Mexico, oh, throw it away, it's junk. Now, it turns out the Mexicans make some pretty good stuff. You know, somehow I don't see the current manufacturing giant as being able to cover the same ground, at least not from where it's at right now. And we're gonna get to that in a few minutes. But first I'm gonna bring you up to speed on everything that's going on around here and updates. Bottle Rocket. So we're getting ready for our match race, our one run, winner take all, $5,000 off the trailer match race with Casper, Andy Woods from Unity Motorsports Garage. Andy's truck is now currently getting headers built for it, and he'll be testing and tuning, and we're going to get together sometime in October. Bottle Rocket is ready to go. I've spent a couple of days, a solid couple of days, going through this car, underneath it, inside of it. So when we first put this thing together, it was hashed together. We jammed this thing together in a gravel lot. And everything was just kind of like done, right? Just get it done, just get it done, just get it done. And now every time I do anything major to the car, I go back and I cover ground and I correct the mistakes and messes that happened the first time around. So now, before I put the motor in, I went through the whole underneath of the car. Scraped, clean, painted. I'm one of those people, I'm weird like this, right? I don't really care what the outside of something looks like, but I really care a lot about what the parts you don't normally see look like. Does that make any sense? It may just be a weird phobia of mine. Like, I'm more concerned with what the inside of an engine looks like than the outside of the engine. Does that make any sense? I've always been that way. So over the last few days, under this car, cleaning, scraping, just making it as nice as possible underneath there. It takes time, right? So I didn't go too far this time. The next time I take the car apart, probably over the winter, I'll get back underneath there and now I'll paint everything. So everything underneath the car will be nice and beautiful. I did do the interior. I spent a little extra time here. We painted the floors, we scraped and painted the floors and everything. I did that firewall, so that's all in there. That just needs to be silicone to seal it up. But yeah, I went nuts trying to get the inside of it as nice as possible. I had to rebuild a transmission tunnel, and I did that because this was originally all cut wide open for the 4-speed setup. So now that we converted over to automatic, and I did this all with 16 gauge, so it's a little bit thicker, it's a little bit safer than the sheet metal that was in there. I sacrificed a couple of ounces, but then again, I took about 8 pounds worth of sound deadener and dirt and gack out of the car at the same time. So you win a little, you lose a little. So that's all done, and like I said, the floors are all nice and painted and all pretty. Okay, and then under here, the motor is ready to go. It's ready to fire. I did swap from the cast covers to these chrome ones. They're a pound lighter for the pair, so I know, right? Crazy, but it looks snazzy. Look how beautiful it is. That's snazzy looking. I haven't put a radiator in it yet. I have the radiator that was in there, but it's like the giant, huge, full-size super tanker radiator that the car was originally born with. So I'm looking for something a little bit lighter I can toss in there. If I don't find anything in the next day or two, I'll throw the original one back in there and go. But Bottle Rocket is ready to launch. Let's see how far we go with it this time. Okay, so bring it over here to this other stuff. All right. So if you guys remember this 361 that had lent to a friend of mine for his race car, and we got it back a couple of months ago. Well, I'm getting ready to tear this all apart, fix the crack, go through everything, make sure that the cylinder walls are good, and We're gonna open up the ring gaps, the stock ring gaps. I'm gonna open up for nitrous, because here's what we're gonna do with this car, with this engine. I'm building a Mule. I'm building a Mule car. So one of the things about this channel is we talk a lot about theory, we talk a lot about history, we talk a lot, but I don't have a dyno. I don't have access to a dyno. There's no local track rentals. There's no local tracks that will do a reasonable rental thing. So the idea of being able to ABA test certain ideas and concepts and whatnot, but is extremely difficult. So what I decided to do, because I don't want a dyno, I don't want to commit the space to it or the expense or anything like that. And a dyno only tells part of the story. So what I decided to do was take one of our cars, one that I have at the house, I'm going to do a whole thing on this, and turn it into a Mule, right? Basically, we're going to set this car up so that everything is wide open and accessible. So that you can pull the motor or the trans or any part of it in just a couple of minutes. Not having to contort or anything like that. And it's going to be wired for everything you could possibly think of to test. So we're going to have a rolling Mule. We're going to have a car, and we're going to use that 361 as the baseline engine. Because it's very, very, the parts that are in it, the basic setup there is like what I would think that the average viewer on this channel kind of has. Like, you have the Chevy version of it, or the Ford version of it, or the the Chrysler version of it. It's a middle-size engine with a mild cam, mild headwork, and we're going to put it together just like that. And the idea isn't to go fast with it. The idea is to have a consistent test bed, so that if we want to test things like spacers or ignition timing, quantitative effects of this or that, different kinds of ignitions and so on and so forth, we can do it with that, and it'll be consistent, it'll be repeatable, and we'll have this one car dedicated specifically to this purpose. So we'll have a rolling Mule, a rolling dyno, a Mule car. And we'll talk about that more later. Okay, DD Speed Shop. Yeah, look, I'm wearing their shirt. Hey, listen, these guys are at like 98,000 subs. They need like 2,000 subs to get over the top, right? I love them. Danny and Danny, they are the nicest people. They're real. Like, you're talking about the most earthy, real people you'll ever find, especially like on YouTube. They're fantastic. Go over there and sub. So we're going to take our 67 Charger. We have a 440 Charger. You guys that are regulars on the channel, you know it. We're going to take that car and we're going to set it up so they can use it for Power Tour next year. They live all the way up in Canada, like where the flying saucers drop off Bigfoot. That's where they live. Okay, so they're going to fly down next year for Power Tour. I'm going to give them the Charger and let them go. So the car is coming over here, but before it comes over here, I'm doing some other things. And one of them is I'm putting this transmission together for it. So this is a regular 727 big block case, old school style. And what I want to do is I want to make it lockup. So Chrysler, beginning in 1978, Chrysler had lockup torque converters, and it saves between like 300 and 400 RPM highway speed. And since this is all highway, I want that. I think that'll be a factor. So basically, everything from this point forward is different. So I've got a lockup, all of the lockup parts, right? All of the lockup parts from a later model small block trans, like a 78 or 79 small block trans, and now I'm going to swap it all into this case. I'm currently researching now what it takes to make a non-lockup case lockup. It doesn't look like it's a big deal, and I've swapped the other way around. I've taken non-lockup parts and put them in a lockup case, but I've never done it this way. I don't think anybody's ever done it this way, right? So that's what we're working on right now. As soon as I've got that transmission together, we'll run the Charger over here, swap out the trans, make sure that's good, and then we're going to start working on the frame rail and all of that. What else? Yeah, sub to DD Speed Shop, right? The awesome people. Okay, so we talk about made in China, Hensho in Mexico, or made in Japan, Hensho in Mexico. Okay, so I needed a shift cable. So now, these cables are like universal. I've been doing this for a long time, right? And I've never had a problem with one of these cables. Usually what happens is This will rub against the header, and the plastic will melt, and then it becomes unwound. There's a winding, a steel winding inside of here. It's just a regular simple Morse cable. So I ordered this one offline. Okay, I ordered this one through Amazon, and I figured, well, how bad could it possibly be, right? Okay, so I put this in the car. Now, mind you, it's a really straight shot. It's a really straight shot from the shifter through a hole in a firewall, simple loop like this to the transmission, right? And the transmission, you know, it's just that little arm on the side, and it moves like butter, tick, 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 no problem, okay? I could never foresee an issue with this. I put it in the car. I noticed that there was a little bit more resistance than I would expect on the cable itself. Like before I even hooked it up to the transmission or the shifter, just moving the center part of the cable in and out, right? It felt like it had some resistance, like it was dragging a little bit. I'm like, you know, okay, it's just a freaking shifter. It's no big deal, right? So I make the connections. I adjust it all up so that it's where it's got to be, okay? So I got park where park has got to be. That's fine. Everything's lined up. I pull it down into first, okay? And again, it has a little bit of resistance to it. I'm like, I wonder why this is. I pull it down into first, and well, okay, this has got a reverse manual valve body in it. So I pull it down into high. So you got park, reverse, neutral, first, second, third, high, right? And I have to make a stop, a detent stop on the transmission for the end of third gear, because it'll pull back like another, I don't know, pull back like another 3/4 of an inch or so on the shifter. As soon as I went to pull it out of park, so it's in park, and I go to pull it out of park, it breaks free. I'm like, what the hell is this? And it never occurred to me, but the cable, this part of it, just snapped off. This must have been frayed inside the housing, and it just broke off. Like there's nothing there. It's like made out of, I don't know what the hell it's made out of. It doesn't have a lot of resiliency to it. You know, it doesn't have a lot of spring to it. See, I could just fold them over like that. So this must have been somewhat frayed inside the cable, which was that resistance that I felt. And as soon as I pulled it back, and it actually had to engage the transmission. And again, you could take the transmission arm and just go like this, click, 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 right? You could do it by hand without any problem at all. That shifter couldn't handle it, or the cable couldn't handle it. Defective out of the box, I guess. So I ordered another one, same manufacturer. This one seems to move freer. So I'm going to throw that one in. I'm going to throw that one in and start hunting for a good old used one. We got a swap meet coming up here. I don't know, I guess in about 3 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, and I'm sure I could find a cable or two. But yeah, that's like, okay, made in China cables, right? Stay away. I mean, it's ridiculous. And that wasn't cheap. That cable was like $50-something, right? For that. And it's not even like you get what you pay for. You know, it's not like I was bargain hunting. You know what I mean? It's $50-something, like $55. So that's with that. At any rate, over the next couple of days, like I said, we're going to probably visit Mexico with Bottle Rocket over here and see how she's functioning, make sure the transmission is all right and the converter is going to work and everything else. And a special shout out to Shane, Slant Daily Garage. He's the guy that actually did the converter for me. So Slant Daily Garage, Shane Polito, good guy. And that's it. I'm going to do more work on the car, and I'm not going to film it. I get this comment all the time, right? We never see you working on a car. Why don't you ever film yourself working on a car? You don't work on anything. Dude, you don't get hands that look like that by not working on anything. I don't want myself filmed. When I first started YouTube, I made a friend, Peg, from Zip Ties and Bias Ties. Great guy, another channel you need to subscribe to. So he does all of his videos. He never shows his face. He never shows any part of his body other than his hands, right? And we had into this conversation one time, and he says, you know, I didn't realize how many freaks there were in this world. I get people that watch me, and it's like a fetish thing. They have a mechanic fetish. And I was like, yeah. I says, that's, you know, there's probably 2 or 3 people out there that don't like that. You know what I mean? It's like, what are you going to do? So make a long story short, I do a video. This is when we first started the channel. And it was the cold start thing. There's a cold start group of people who I don't know how, I don't know why, I don't understand the mechanism, but cold starts are like a thing for them, okay? So I had no idea. I had seen cold start, and I was like, well, okay, people want to watch engines start from cold, fine. So I went around my house and I started like 6 or 7 of my cars and whatever I had there, right? And from cold, right? It was a goof video, okay? And then I realized that there really is a group of people who have a thing about cold starts, and people would make comments like, pump the gas more. Oh, this creeped me out to no end. Like, you have no idea, okay? And then I remember Peg telling me, you know, it's like, yeah, it's like there's people out there that have a mechanic fetish, and they watch you, and this is their thing, right? That stuck with me. And so, A, I do not like being filmed or watched while I'm working. It's my thing, you know? And B, there's way too many people out there, there's way too many freaks out there, you know what I mean, who don't just look at working on a car as working on a car. You guys who do YouTube and film yourselves working on stuff, keep this in the back of your head while you're okay? I'll see you tomorrow.